And so I'm going to just briefly review those in the next 5 minutes and talk about why each one of those is important. The first one, of course, is being mission focused. That at the core of every highly reliable team is a really important mission, a sense of why you're doing things, a sense, a connection to a community that tells you this is the community I'm working for, these are the people I know that we're serving, this is why we're serving them, this is our value set. That is so important to have. And so a good, highly reliable team always has that. And the second one are clear and known communication protocols. Communication protocols that are really clear when you're not operational. So when you're just in that time, in that waiting time, in that organizational time, there's a set of protocols that tells you when and where to go and what to do, that you don't waste time. There's also a set of communication protocols that give you feedback on your training, give you feedback on your performance, help you understand where you are. And those are formalized and informalized, but they are there and rock solid. Certainly, the most obvious of this is if you get on or turn on any police radio or fire radio on a scanner, and you will know and you will see you will hear a communication protocol that's really interesting and fun to watch and develop and understand. The third one, of course, is this obsession that teams have with learning, with always getting better, with learning, not so much learning the new and the latest and the new and the latest. Oh, something is going on. It sounds like some sort of an alarm outside. Well timed. I don't even know what that is. It sounds like a friendly sound. Maybe it's the wake-up alarm for the students. Could be. Because I'm in a dormitory in Romania. So that's another thing. This is a communication protocol, by the way, that they know. Everybody in this area except me would probably knows what that little bell sound is. So that obsession with learning, but it's not just an obsession with learning that is the willingness to adopt anything that's new. They're very careful to adopt new things because they want everybody to be absolutely, totally, and completely competent on something. The fourth one is to avoid failure. It's not to gain success or be successful all the time as much as it is to avoid failure. A good surgeon, for example, will not do things that are risky unless they have to do them. That the ultimate goal is to keep the patient alive. The ultimate goal is to keep the problem alive until you can really solve it without any major problems or really big issues. That's sort of obnoxious, isn't it? Then the fifth thing is reluctant to simplify and blame. That is, there's a reluctance to say this was an easy thing, it's no big deal, and if we don't get it right, it's your fault, not my fault. We share blame in these kind of highly reliable teams, and everybody understands their role and what they do. I'm going to pause for just a minute so we can let that noise die. Turns out it was a car alarm. So just outside my window here, I'm one story up. It was a car alarm. And a lot of angry students at 8:30 in the morning. So I talked a little bit about avoiding failure and the importance of avoiding failure. The third thing is the reluctance to simplify and blame. I've talked a little bit about that. And so, think of that. Of course, students have to own their responsibility for success in a classroom, right? You have to be responsible, but you also know that it's partly if things don't go the way you expect, that it's also partly the instructor's responsibility. And take that idea, that symbiotic relationship between both instructor and a student, and both responsible for the success of the class, and you write that out into the entire team, and you understand that there is a system in place where everybody's responsible for making things work in some way or another. They embrace operational and organizational complexity. So you know that, for example, that when you go into a particular mission or go to solve a certain problem, that that there are elements of it that will be familiar, there are elements of it that you'll be unfamiliar, and you're willing to accept that complexity. There's never this idea that, oh, easy peasy, nobody's going to have to work very hard on this. It's just routine. It's never seen as completely being routine. You're always questioning whether or not this is a unique problem and will require more. And you also know that there is an organization out there that the organization is complex, that it has both formal and informal aspects of it, and you're willing to accept and adapt both of those. Involve appropriate expertise is the next one. And you are willing to go in and embrace and say, you know, we know what it takes to do this. We know what we're going to be able to do, what we have to do this, and we don't have that kind of expertise on our team, or we do have that expertise on our team. We know the people on our team. We know what they can do, and Hammond down here can't do a lot of things really well, but the one thing he can do well, we need right now, and let's bring him up to the front and have him do some critical things. That happens to me a fair amount, because when it comes to the mountain rescue kinds of things, the rope kind of things, I'm just sort of, at best, a player. But when it comes to search strategy and some of those kind of things, then I get pulled to the top, and people say, lead us, help us know how to solve this particular problem. And so that analysis of who's the expert, whether it's internal or expert or an external expert, is really important. The eighth thing is that you measure performance, that you figure out that you know how well you're doing in some really tangible kind of ways, and in both subjective and objective kind of measurements. And so they measure the percentage. One of the things that fire departments do a lot of is measure response time. That's something that they can measure. It doesn't tell you everything. It absolutely doesn't tell you everything, but it tells you some important things. Airlines measure on-time arrival. But you also know that pilots are absolutely opposed to being on time if it's going to jeopardize the safety of the aircraft. And so they're always balancing those kind of priorities, and that's okay, but we do measure things. And finally, there's an attention to individual resilience. They take care of each other. Pilots associations take care of each other. Airlines take care of their pilots associations. In search and rescue, if you are stressed, if you deal with a particularly difficult issue, then you are given some help to do that. So this is, of course, we're going to go into great detail with all of these kinds of things as we talk through this class. And then ultimately we're going to send you with some assessments that you'll be able to do an assessment instrument and do an analysis of a team. And so that's where I'm headed on this. I hope this has been helpful for you. And more details later. Thanks for hanging in there with me, guys. Call me at any time for any reason. Thanks.